we about to do it. Watch us get into it. We some lumberjacks, and we needing wood. Yeah, we going for the sweep, then we mop it up. We put it all on the block, and then we chop it up, 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 chop it up. We put it all on the block, and then we chop it up.
The one and only, the Chop and Block podcast, presented by DJ's Clam Shack, live here on YouTube, and who knows where else. Hopefully we're getting a share somewhere. But tonight, it's the NFL show every Wednesday night. Let's throw it to your host, Beast of Kane himself, for another great show.
Oh, man. I don't know how this video got in here.
Now, nobody has said anything about this Monday night game.
That's a layup, Barry.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Come on, Sean Payton's been a bust. Can we say that? Are you allowed to say Sean Payton's been a failure?
It's not. Listen, man.
That's literally Jordan coming from the free throw line. That ain't even a layup, dog. This is something.
Hold on. This is the team. This is the team that beat the Chiefs. They beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, and Josh Allen hasn't. Okay, he's sitting at 5-4, dude.
Well, Barry, he's a lot better at home, though. Josh Allen's good at home.
Hey, listen, man. At some point, we have to at least give Sean Payton and Russell Wilson a little bit of possibility. Now. I don't know how that got in there, but somebody must have slipped that video in there on me.
not my best moment.
Sorry about that, guys, but I had to do you like that. Hey, guys, look, welcome back to the NFL show. We got a jam-packed one. We're going to jump right into it. I know my guys going to come with the smoke. First slide. Which one of these has the most impact on the game? And like I said during the pregame, I left one of these out. I'll be surprised to see if any one of you come up with that. But speed, coaching, power, or technology? Steve Dalton, which has most impact on the game?
I'm going to go none of them.
All right.
I'm going to go in a different direction here. I think this is all about individual talent. And I don't mean power. I don't mean speed. I mean individual will, individuality. Okay. Different mindsets. You got people like Joe Namath, Super Bowl III guarantees a victory. Had no business guaranteeing a victory. He goes out there, don't worry, New York Jets are going to win the Super Bowl. And they did. Then you got somebody who's a 6th-round draft pick, Thomas Brady, wins 7 Super Bowls. Should have never even started for the New England Patriots. Drew Bledsoe, we had our guy. We had the guy who was supposed to be the next great, the Super Bowl winner on the cover of Nintendo 64, Madden, or whatever it was, and it didn't work out. Tom Brady worked out. He had a different mindset. I give, if you want to talk about players now, I look at Lamar Jackson, somebody who was ruled out from the beginning. They would have said, this guy's never going to play college football. He goes and wins a Heisman. They said he's never going to play professional football. He goes and wins playoff games. Only one in his career, but he's been to the playoffs a lot. A lot of people can't say that. I think it's all about the players. Barry Sanders, smaller running back, winds up being the best of all time. Quits when he wants to, when he's at the top of his game. Calvin Johnson, best wide receiver we've ever seen in our lifetime, in my opinion, and quits, 10, 11 years in? Just says, hey, I'm the best. I'm hurt. I'm done. I don't got nothing else to prove, and he never even won a playoff game. It's all about the players and the mindset. It's not the power, not the speed, not the coach, and not the tech. It's the players.
How many times have you heard Tom Brady is literally a coach on the field? Also, Lamar Jackson, what does he run in a 40?
4.3.
Probably somewhere
Fast
down
as
there.
hell.
4.3.
Yeah.
So I push back to say this: that every one of the players that you name, look at Johnson. That's one of the most powerful receivers we ever seen. So no matter how much will, I like how you came with that, because I do believe that intangibles are very important, but intangibles alone won't get it done.
No.
You're going to have some components, and no matter how much Namath promises something, he makes those promises based on the people that he has around him, and possibly the coaches on the sideline and the deficiencies on the opposition. So you're going to have to give me a little bit more, because these things on this screen right here has to be at least, you have to consider these things when you think about competition.
I consider them, no doubt. But here's my thing. You talk about coaching. You're the same guy, Barry, who's been bashing Bill Belichick all year and saying Tom Brady's gone. What has the Patriots done? And I agree with you. So if it's not Tom Brady's will and determination, what was it for the New England Patriots? Was it those Robert Kraft
being a GM?
I think if we go back and look at those teams, listen, I think Tom Brady is probably one of the smartest people we've ever seen. So
no doubt.
You know what I'm saying? So I guess what I'm saying is, if I can have a team, I can have, nobody's more invincible than kids, right? But if I put all them invincible kids on the football field, they're gonna get murdered because they don't have what it takes to get it done. So I don't think that you always have a good coach. But if you have enough players, it don't matter what that coach doing, because you got the players. What do you say, Coach?
Well, before I get into the slide, I'm gonna have to pull out one of the most famous lines ever by a movie that I love that you would not think a grown man would love, with Eddie Murphy doing the voiceover for Donkey, and that is, "You cut me deep, Shrek." But to the slide, all of them are valuable impacts of the game, because you got to have coaching who's got the right technology to know where to take advantage of the speed that he's got on the field, because the game is faster, and where to implement the power when needed, such as the tush push. That's not just a play in the NFL that you run. That's a play that's ran with nothing but power. You're squatting, you're benching, you're deadlifting. Everything that you do in the weight room, you're doing to get 1 yard. It's a power game at that point. So I think all four of them come into play. But I think the most impactful part of this, and I don't know if this was what Barry was looking at, but this is what I look at as the hit gem. None of the coaching will work, no matter how much technology he's got, or how much speed he's got on his roster, or how powerful they are, if they don't stay healthy.
That's it. The science and the health, the nutrition, all of those things. You nailed it. So, but I'm not gonna let you. I'm not gonna let you out. I'm not gonna let you off without giving me the most important one. So, are you saying that the science and the health is the most important one?
Well, I'm saying the science is the most is super important, just because if they're not on the field, they can't display any speed, power. Okay. I can't get any of that out of a player. But
so
if I had to
let's say they all healthy, which one of these are most impactful?
To me, the most impactful now is the coaching, because
Okay.
I got to be able to put you in position for that. You know, Tyreek Smith, he doesn't go out and they say, look, draw up a play in the huddle and tell Tyreek to run this route. You got coaches that are already saying that in this route with his speed, he's going to stress a corner and a safety. So you're going to put that in the playbook. Then you turn around and you say, well, where does the power come into play other than the tush push? I'll flip it to the other side of the Philadelphia Eagles. What are you going to do with that front? It's as powerful as it gets. See, back in the day when we were growing up, they always told us bigger, faster, stronger. Tyreek Hill proved that it's not being bigger. Maurice Jones-Drew proved that it's not being bigger. Ray Rice proved that it's not being bigger. But speed and power is something that's never left the game. So you got wide receivers now that can blow the roof off of anybody. You got quarterbacks now that can run, blow the roof off of anybody. You got running backs, even though they're not valued as much. But if you let them get in the open field, there is no catching some of them. But the game is all about speed and power on the player side. As far as the organization side, it's all about coaching and the technology. So both of them have to come into play. But like I said, the most impactful part of that whole scenario is how healthy are we? Because we can't do it if we're not healthy. You take Jalen Hurts out the mix right now. How well is the tush push? It's not the same. All right. You take Tyreek Hill out the game. What good is the speed? We've already seen when teams actually put him in a box and secure him and they control his speed. What has the Dolphins done? Nothing. But when you try to say, hey, we can cover him and you're going to let him show his speed, you get burnt every single time. When it comes to the power, there's not one of us in this room that says, just on the running back perspective, you give me short yardage, you give me Derrick Henry. Why? Because that's power. But you say, okay, well, what if you don't get a chance to get Derrick Henry and he's injured? Okay, well, let me have Christian McCaffrey. Still got a running back, but instead of the power, I use the speed. With the technology of knowing what he can do, as long as he can stay healthy, with a coach like Shanahan that can put him in the position to succeed.
All right. You're going to have to bring it, Thoroughbred.
Well, guys, for today's modern NFL, the era we're playing in now, which is the quarterback era, where your starting quarterback makes $40 to $50 million a year, the most impact on the game has to be speed. And this is a very clear, it's been obvious for me for the last 10 years. The fastest teams with the best quarterbacks usually win Super Bowls. And here are a few examples. If you go back to the Chiefs Super Bowl runs when they had Tyreek Hill, I'm pretty sure, no, it was one Super Bowl they won with Tyreek Hill. Nobody could guard that team. They had Tyreek Hill and Nicole Hardman on one side and Travis Kelce at tight end. This is one of the fastest teams I'd ever seen. Travis Kelce's way too fast for safeties and linebackers and too big. And then Tyreek Hill and Nicole Hardman were too fast for the outside, and nobody could handle this Chiefs team. Another example, and Steve, this is going to hit home with Steve. The New England Patriots are one of the slowest teams in the NFL. They have no team speed. And how I've noticed this is they haven't adapted to the modern NFL. The New England Patriots still draft, and they still go for that big possession receiver. You look at Juju Smith-Schuster, he's about 6'2", 220 pounds, 4'6", 40. That's a slow 40 for a wide receiver. Keep in mind, Myles Garrett for the Cleveland Browns runs a 4'6". So you have a defensive end that runs the same 40 time as a wide receiver. That's not good. That's not a good formula. And the teams that are winning ball games now, their wide receivers are running 4-3, 4-4. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles, for example, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown.
Williamson.
Right. Both guys are 4-4, 4-3. And then Dallas Goedert, the tight ends, of 4-6 at tight end. They've got a lot of team speed. Jalen Hurts is a 4-5. So definitely the most impact on the game right now is the speed. If you look at the best teams, the teams that are winning football games, as in they're winning ball games on Sundays, not all the cute stuff and fantasy. The teams that are winning ball games have speed all over the field.
And I can totally agree with that, because have it going back to prior teams, why do you think they used to call the Rams the greatest show on turf?
Dude,
Joe Horn,
Falk, Azar Hakeem,
My-
Torrey Holt,
I mean,
Isaac
Torrey
Cruz.
Holt.
Yeah.
say, dude, who could slow it down?
Okay, so I have to tell you guys, you all have not touched on one of the most impactful things that's gonna hit: technology. Guys, analytics, AI, all of these things is going to make the coaching more smarter. They're going to make you healthier. All the science that's coming in with the nutrition, all these things is coming by way of science and technology. Those things right there cannot be understated. They're going to give teams the edge. Now, we have a situation in college football right now where Harbaugh in Michigan cheating. They say they cheating, they stealing signs. Guys, we have been in the information age now for a long time. All of this information is out there. Everybody is watching everybody. You're learning. You're going to have an edge based on how well you do technology. Now, I don't care how technical you are. You're going to have some speed. You're going to have some power. You're going to have some coaching. But it's going to become a day to where these coaches are going to be, they're going to look more like Daniels in Miami. They're not going to be the old school coaches, because guess what? Everything is getting smarter. And a lot of these guys, they're either going to have people on their staff that understands how to look at technology, how to utilize. Hey, when does Russell Wilson play best? When does what weather does Tyreek play bad in? Okay, what do we need to do to scheme up against him? What really works? Not what we think works. What exactly is going on, guys? When they start looking at information like that, it's going to totally change the game. So I look forward to seeing how tech plays in on this. But if you gave me one choice, I'm going to have to take that speed. Speaking of all of these different assets, it's a Wonderlic life. I heard something early in the week saying that CJ Stroud didn't do well on the Wonderlic test. And this is kind of like a litmus test to see how smart these guys are. Now, some of these names on here, I know these names might be a little bit too small, but I'm going to read out some of them. I'll read them out fast. Pat McEngley, I don't even know who that is. Mike Mamula, Ryan Fitzpatrick, okay, Greg McElroy, Ben Watson, Kevin Curtis, Carson Wentz. Let's get to some popular names. Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers, and Brady, Matt Ryan. These are the players who scored really high on this test. So think about it, guys. Does this test really matter at all, Havoc?
I would say it depends on the position. If I've got a quarterback, and of course there's some examples of average Wonderlic scores like CJ Stroud and Peyton Manning didn't test great on this. But yeah, usually if a quarterback has a good Wonderlic score, Wonderlic's an overall indicator of football knowledge and how much they understand about the game. So for a quarterback, I would say it does matter usually. But CJ Stroud is the rare exception, which somehow I don't know if he's not a good test taker or he was nervous. He's the one guy that's proven that he can overcome a bad Wonderlic score. But usually, yes, if it's a quarterback.
But these are the top 20 of the tests. These are the top 20. I don't see a whole bunch of names and a whole bunch of Hall of Famers on this list. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is on this list. You know, I don't think he had too good of a career. And Ezekiel Elliott right there at 19. Really? Does it matter for Zeke? What do you say, Coach?
I'm kind of like havoc on it. I would say if you're a quarterback, I think maybe the score might matter. But honestly, with the way the game is right now, whatever you put on paper as far as a test is not what I'm going to see anyway. Everything is a disguise. You can sit and tell me, what would you do if you're in this type formation and a team is in that type coverage and this is the down and distance and this is where you are in a quarter and how much time is on the clock and the play clock is running down. What do? It's all changed now. And the reason why it's changed is because of what we had in the first slide. Coaches don't coach it the same way. Technology is going to tell us something different. You're going to go and take advantage of the speed that you got on the field, because I'm sure speed is not part of the question. It's just the basic question, and the power is not on there. So I look at it as the Wonderlic is just a test just to see your overall IQ. And I guess that's saying, are you going to be the guy that's going to come in here and actually do something good with your millions? Or are you going to be the one like old boy back in the day for the Dallas Cowboys and get caught with 132 pounds of marijuana in your crib?
And you know what? I didn't have time to go and look this test up to see when this test was actually invented. But one thing that kept knocking on my noggin was I wonder if this was a test to keep black quarterbacks out. I don't know that too. I don't know that for certain, but we know in the history we have had certain situations like that. I want to go back and do the homework. I don't know this for certain, but I wonder when they started giving this test out, you know, and what and why. What do you say, Dalton?
Yeah, I don't know if it, you know, I'd like to see the history on that as well about that scenario. But let's be honest. I mean, this test really only matters depending on how well your NFL career is. When they really start looking it up, I mean, Bobby Boucher could take this test and fail it and be, you know, take the Mud Dogs to the Bourbon Bowl and win it. You know, and then you've got guys like you talked about, Peyton Manning. This dude's head grew over his career from all the plays and all the mumbo jumbo he's known. And he didn't do that well. But then you got guys like Tom Brady on there, who is the greatest of all time. And his brain and his, you know, his mindset propelled his career. Does that have anything to do with the Wonderlic test? I don't know. I would love to see who came up with this Wonderlic test, and maybe we should take it in the Chop and Block podcast and do our own documentary on it. But this whole scenario here is probably the best question you've ever asked, Barry, because I just don't know. But I would love to see certain players' test scores. I would love to see Vince Young's test. I would love to see Jamarcus Russell. But then again, if you think about their scenarios, Jamarcus Russell was just lazy. It wasn't that he didn't have talent, that he wasn't smart. He was lazy. You know, they asked him to watch 2 tapes of film and to come back on Monday and write a report on what he watched. The films were blank, and he wrote a full report on what he saw. I mean, the guy was just lazy. So I think a lot goes into this whole score. I do think there is. I would say nowadays, kids coming out of college, I think this score does matter a little bit more than in the past. But I mean, in the past, this whole test could have just been advertised as like, hey, you got to fill out this here report to go to the draft. And I don't know if there was much, strategy or importance to it. Who knows? Great question, Barry. I just don't have an answer.
You know
Only
what?
five of them in that top 20 actually won a Super Bowl.
That
That's
is
right.
very true.
Tom Brady,
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford. Who else?
I wonder if that's
You
Ben
got
Watson,
Manning
the tight end.
And
'Cause
Ben
if that's
Watson,
Ben,
tight end with the Patriots.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And look at this. And if you look at this score, Tom Brady score is 17 points lower than the highest. But he's considered a GOAT and has the most Super Bowls. Now,
I really want to know what the questions you got for the punter. He blasted the test.
you
What
know,
are you kicking over there?
well, that's why he's the punter.
That's
you know,
why I kind of want to do some more, digging into this question. What does this test entail? What does it mean for a quarterback? What does it mean for a running back? I mean, or is it all the same? So
it's I think the test is the same, and I don't think it's even over the
Position.
game. I think it's like Coach said, it's an IQ test. But to your point, this test could mean more now than it did previously because of the gain of technology.
I
and how
agree.
complex and sophisticated these things are going to get. So I think all in all, maybe like having said, maybe not so much for non-quarterbacks, but I do believe that intelligence has a place in sports. Which team benefits the most from a tank? When you consider all the teams that are out there right now that has an opportunity to get some game-changing talent, who do you think will benefit more from that, Coach?
I think the team that'll benefit the most from it will be the Arizona Cardinals. And the reason why I say that is because Kyler Murray is not your answer. But you have a lot of needs on that team in order to get where you need to get. I mean, you don't right now, you had Josh Dobbs as your backup, who came in and won a game for you, 2 games. And he was on a roll as far as helping that football team maintain. If you look at it, when Dobbs was playing with the Cardinals, they wasn't getting blown out. He kept games close. It was just they couldn't get over the hump on a third down because they really didn't have a third down weapon. Third down was more like first and second down. You have to find somebody. Everybody knows in this league, third down, you got to have a go-to guy. But
Yes.
Cardinals, you didn't have a go-to guy. So where do you go from there? Your tight end game isn't as strong. It's mediocre. You got tight ends that can block, but you don't have tight ends that are weapons. In this game, your tight end has to be a weapon, like a tank. You're not going to go on the battlefield with a tank that can't shoot. What is he going to do? Just make trails? You got to have you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
their tight end game isn't up to par. Their running game isn't up to par. Their line game is pretty much the best thing that they got. If you look at it, Arizona don't give up a whole lot of sacks. They're pretty decent in the run game, but the one thing that hurts the Cardinals the most in that area is all the penalties. They have too many false starts and they have a lot of holding penalties. So that hurts them because it puts you behind the chain. But once you're behind the chains, you don't have a weapon to get you ahead of the chains. So I think the team that'll benefit the most in trying to tank a season would be the Arizona Cardinals, just because the division that you're in, you need some power, because you got Seattle, you got San Francisco, and you got the Rams. In order to compete in the NFL and even think about winning the Super Bowl, you got to first beat your division. And the Cardinals is 30 miles away from sniffing a chance of competing for the division, let alone winning it.
You know, so are you saying maybe they get rid of Kyler, or are you saying they just try to add to it?
I say what you do is you don't necessarily get rid of Kyler, because we know he's got his binky in his helmet and he's going to suck on it when he starts wanting to whine and be a little baby about situations, which is the reason why Josh Dobbs is no longer the backup. That would have made the team a lot stronger. But what I would do is I would draft me a quarterback. Not necessarily a first rounder, but I'm going to draft somebody that's going to put some pressure on him, and you can't do nothing about it. You can do something about the guy that we just signed to replace you, who really ain't on this squad, as opposed to a guy that we finna sign to a major contract. You can't do anything about that, Kyler, except pull your binky out and start crying. Sit on the end zone with your hands like that, because there's nothing you can do about it. So
Right.
I look and say, draft you a quarterback, and in free agency, find you some weapons and get you a running back. Maybe in a draft. I mean, you got Corum coming from Michigan. Get you a running back, hands down. So I don't say get rid of Kyler, but the thing about it is you draft a quarterback, you put heat on him. Now Kyler Murray becomes a valuable draft weapon with a trade,
Yeah.
because
yeah,
there may be a team that needs a quarterback, and you got one that you will trade to you so that I can move up in the draft and maybe get that tight end that we're missing, like a Brock Bowers. So I look at, the Cardinals, it would do you better to tank your season and try to draft and do what you can than it is for anybody else in the league right now.
And I don't think they have much of a choice. What say you have it?
This topic had me torn. It was between the Patriots and the Giants, and I got to go with the New England Patriots. They benefit the most from a tank. I just think this team needs talent. They need speed. They need talent. And I'm not saying they have to draft a quarterback, but if someone like Drake May is available, or a Shador Sanders or a Jaden Daniels, I strongly consider drafting them. I like Mac Jones, and I've given him the benefit of the doubt, but sometimes it just doesn't work out for whatever reason. And it happened with Drew Bledsoe. They had to find Tom Brady to get to that next step. Yeah, Mac Jones is good, but they need something, I think, a little more. I think they need a real spark. I think a Drake May or a Shador Sanders or a Jaden Daniels could really spark the Patriots into the next the next direction. And then also, when you tank, you don't just get a high draft pick for the first round. That's for every round. So they could also fix their offensive line, get some more team speed on the wide receiver position. New England needs a lot of speed. This team is slow. I don't mean to harp on it, but the reason I say this is because people need to wake up. They need to watch the film that I've watched, and they need to understand, look, it's not Bill Belichick, the coach. He can coach his ass off, but the players he's drafted are just too slow for today's NFL. He needs a lot of team speed, and he needs to find the franchise quarterback. If it's Mac Jones, great. If not, then let it be a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels. But I would say the Patriots benefit the most from a tank.
And I'm gonna tell you, man, I want to go out and eat like 9,000 hot dogs so that I could put on about 200 more pounds and be Havoc's tag team partner right now, because what he said is what everybody should be thinking about that nobody thinks about. They just look at it, oh, he was a 4th round draft pick or he was a 6th round draft pick. But Havoc said the most important thing: draft early in every round.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody
Yeah.
looks at that. It's a difference in drafting early in the 4th round than getting a 4th round pick.
That's right.
Hats
That's
up,
true.
man.
That's true. That's absolutely true. What'd you say, Dalton?
You know, I'm sitting here actually looking at the draft possibilities, and I got 2 teams here. They've already been mentioned. One was already going to be my New England Patriots. I'm a Patriots fan. I'm going to throw them in there. But another team is the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm going to tell you why. Both teams, okay, have realistically a quarterback that you could trade for a 1st-round draft pick, and that is a fact. Kyler Murray is worth a 1st-round draft pick, and in my opinion, so is Mac Jones. This guy can ball, but he's never going to exceed in New England. It don't seem like it. He's been there long enough, and we haven't given him any weapons. You mean to tell me you bring Ezekiel Elliott in and you call him a weapon, and we pay him what, $5, $6, $7, $8 million to play this season? Get out of here. Dude is washed up. His helmet don't even have the top face bar on it. Like, it looks weird. I don't know what's going on with him. But if I'm the New England Patriots and the Arizona Cardinals, the thing you do is you trade Mac Jones or Kyler Murray for another 1st-round pick, and you tank. That way you have 2 picks in the early 1st round, and you can just change your whole entire outlook on your franchise. And if it's the Cardinals, what I would do is you draft a Caleb Williams or a Bo Nix, and you draft a Marvin Harrison Jr., period. And if maybe you get a late 1st round, you can get Brock Bowers, or maybe an early 2nd round. Who knows? But that's what you got to do. You got to go get 3 offensive stars right out of college that are going to be NFL stars immediately. The next CJ Stroud. And let's be honest, Caleb Williams, you put this guy on a loaded team, like if he's with CJ Stroud's team this year, oh my God, like he'd be putting up the same numbers. This guy's been NFL ready, in my opinion. So you get him another 1st-round pick with him, Marvin Harrison Jr., you're on to something. And you could change your whole franchise around in 1 round of the draft and still have, like Coach or somebody said, you still got every other round after that. So if I'm the Cardinals or the New England Patriots, tank hard. And not only that, but trade your quarterback for a 1st-round draft pick, period. And if I was the Cardinals, here's who I would look to in the draft. And maybe even the Patriots. I think both teams have the argument. The New York Giants are probably going to be the 1st team picking in the NFL draft. They need a quarterback. Daniel Jones is going to be out of the house this year. There's no doubt about it. They're playing a guy at quarterback right now named Tommy DeVito. I don't know if that's Danny DeVito's grandson or who it is, but my God, let's be honest. Tommy DeVito, that's the best you have in New York. Trade Mac Jones to the New York Giants, or trade Kyler Murray to the New York Giants and get their 1st overall pick. It's easy. And when it happens in April, call me and say, hey, you were right, Steve. And that's what I would do, Barry. It's the Cardinals or the Patriots. Trade the quarterback, get the 1st pick, and have a 2nd pick right after that, because you suck too.
You know what, man? You bring up a lot of interesting points. And if you remember in pregame, I told you I was going to get into this too. Now, I like the fact that you guys are saying, even though we got you guys on some major contracts, we want to get rid of you. Because here's what's going on. You got to be thinking for the long haul. And sometimes, it's just the cost of doing business to get rid of and eat some of that contract. Listen, if you knew, now I'm not as high on Caleb Williams as Steve Dalton is. Jury's still out on him for me. I gotta wait and see. I know he's a buzzword, whatever, but I ain't feeling that right now. But I will say this. But if you knew you can get a person, a player that could get it done for you over the next 3 to 5 years, and you got a guy that you can't get to study, and he's just emotional little dude, I
Mhm.
get rid of him. I get rid of him. You know, I don't care how big of the contract is. Now Happy told me that Bill Belichick isn't the problem, and then Steve Dalton told me that Mac Jones would be good at a certain place. That is a contradiction. Now that's a problem with one of them. Something. You can't tell me he's a good coach and he can't develop a baller quarterback. Something ain't right there.
But it's like Havoc said. It's like Havoc said. Bill needs to let the GM job go and coach, because the reason why Mac Jones ain't getting no weapons is because Bill is not drafting as a coach to win. He's drafting as a GM to save a budget.
And if we were talking about college, we would say that if the coach can't recruit good talent, then is he a good coach? He's not. At some point, you know, you coaching. Like if I'm a CEO, I don't have to be the owner. You're gonna have to give me something I can work with. I think that Bill Belichick has a history of trying to save the budget and do a lot with a little, and that don't work unless you have Tom Brady. Okay, so at the end of the day, what I'm saying is this right here. I do think these teams that y'all are saying would benefit a lot from go ahead and shopping these guys, especially if it's something there that you want that makes sense, right? Because I think too many times, like Daniel Jones just got his money, you know, and we know Matt Jones. I think Matt Jones is up, but I don't think they're gonna give him no money. And then
he's not getting the Daniel Jones type of deal. No way.
No. And then Kyler got way too much. He bullied them. He bullied his way into a contract. I ain't mad at him because if I could have did, I'd have did the same thing. But that little dude stay on my nerves. And one last thing on this slide, we talked earlier about speed, and we talked about technology and power and forget the other one, coaching. One of the things that we cannot underestimate is a coach or organization's ability to create good culture.
Yeah.
That's important. If you don't have somebody that can,
Look at the Lions.
Yeah, exactly. That coach is doing a marvelous job at creating a good culture in that program. And let me tell you, I don't think the Lions is as talented as some of the other teams, but he's getting it done. So just like Coach said earlier in the show, you need a little bit of all of that stuff going on to get the sauce just right. Speaking of sauce, what about old saucy oiled up Deshaun Watson? Now, I did this slide before he went out. Now, he's probably gonna give you a call, Havoc, because you said that the doctors cleared him and he didn't come back in, and now they say that the man gonna have season-ending surgery. So I think he knew he was hurt, but people were trying to pressure him to go back in. I think that's actually what happened. Now, the Browns are in the thick of things right now. Now, what happens after this man goes down, I have no idea. But it made me think about all of the drama and the issues surrounding Watson. Is the NFL happy right now that this guy may not be the face of the Lombardi? Would that hurt the Shield? Coach, I think you got some good points on this. And if they could, would they run a prevention defense? Maybe to make sure that the Browns don't get this trophy?
Well, I look at it two ways. He's injured right now, but he's still part of that organization. So how would the NFL view a Super Bowl champion with all the baggage that he's got? Just like if he hadn't have got hurt and he won a Super Bowl, everybody knows, especially with Nick Chubb out, that the MVP of the Cleveland Browns would be Deshaun Watson. But the only reason why I say it can't go that way, we got to keep it on a level playing surface, give every player a chance, is because my man Ray Lewis won a Super Bowl, but y'all called him a murderer. He was an MVP, but you called him a murderer. But what I look at is, as long as this player is carrying any type of fan base, as long as this player is successful in making the NFL Super Bowl the show that they really want it to be, we're going to go let them do it. But this is what we're going to do that nobody pays attention to behind the screen. How come Ray Lewis doesn't have anything to do with an NFL team? How come Ray Lewis ain't a coach somewhere in the NFL, an analyst, a coordinator? He still loves the game. He still has the same passion for the game, but nobody in the NFL is going to give Ray Lewis a chance to be on the executive side of the shield as opposed to the player side of the shield. Because when we even look at a superhero, Superman, Batman, the Hulk, all of them had a good role. All of them played a villain. That's the way the shield is in the NFL. But for those who go back and forth and you have something on that villain side, you don't get a chance to do anything with the executive side of the league. You're nothing but a former player. So I look at it as Deshaun Watson. I don't think that they would really do anything to prevent the Cleveland Browns from getting there, because Jim Brown and the rest of them already put the history in the Cleveland that we can get to that point. But I don't think that Deshaun Watson would have anything to do with the NFL as far as a career after the season is over with. And if you look at the majority of most players who go on to have some form of NFL career that usually land a coordinating position, is usually a quarterback, and he's an offensive coordinator somewhere.
And I think those are great points. And I think that maybe you talked about the MVP, I think that if they could give it to anybody else, they would. What say you, Dalton?
Oh, yeah.
I think this is a tough question because I don't think that – I mean, I'll be honest. If you guys think any differently, I want to hear it. But I just don't see Deshaun Watson ever really having this chance to, win a Super Bowl and maybe, being in that limelight that the NFL – I mean, let's be honest. The NFL don't want him to be in that spot.
No.
And that's – it wouldn't be good for the NFL, and that don't mean that Deshaun's a criminal or I don't know what's wrong and right that Deshaun did or didn't do. But I do know that with all the controversy around him, it's not good for the NFL for him to be the Super Bowl champion or the Super Bowl MVP. And you get, that 5 seconds of fame to say, Deshaun Watson, you're a Super Bowl champion. What are you going to do next? Damn sure Disneyland don't want him to say, I'm going to Disneyland.
Great point.
So, I'll just say this. I don't think Deshaun Watson would have that opportunity. But even if he did, is there really anything the NFL could say? Let's be honest. We look back years ago, Colin Kaepernick could have been a Super Bowl champion. Now, I know that his story changed after he left the NFL and what he kind of, brought up in the league and the different questions he brought up. But I just don't think it would have been good at the time for the NFL if he would have won the Super Bowl that year. Because then down the road, the story would have been even way different, more different. So I think this is the situation. you know, it's like you said, Coach Price, you know, Ray Lewis, you don't see him on many talk shows. The same thing with Ray Rice. You think they want Ray Rice to be on a talk show about a game that, you know, he's got a lot of experience in the NFL, but he has a horrible one story that judges his whole career and a lot of his personal life. You can't have him in that spotlight. And I think that is unfortunate for Ray Lewis because in a player's sense, he is a guy that you want to hear from. You know, even as a fan point of view, you want to hear from Ray Lewis because he is one of the greatest of all time. But the controversy that surrounds him, whether he's innocent or guilty, it's always going to be there. So it's almost like if you don't have to have him there, you don't want him there. And I know that's crazy. I'm a huge Ray Lewis fan, but there's a lot of players that fall into that spotlight that we're not even talking about. You know, so I don't know. This is one of the greatest questions that I've ever been asked. I don't think the NFL would have anything to do with it, but then again, I don't think Deshaun Watson would have the chance to be there. I just don't think that the NFL. I think the game's so open. You can't really. I mean, imagine if somebody were to win the Super Bowl and they just blacked them out. You know, oh, this wasn't our guy. We blacked him out. The NFL would wreak havoc for that, and they'd be in a lot of trouble in a bad spotlight. So, great question, Barry. I hope my answer did the best it could, but that's how I feel.
No, I like it, but I will tell you that we do know that the entire league colluded against Colin Kaepernick, and the reason we know that is they settled and gave him a ton of money.
The owners.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's the NFL, essentially, you know, all of the owners in the franchise. So we do know it is in their nature to prevent whatever protects the bottom line, and that is money. What do you say, Adam?
Barry, real quick, if you think about it too, with the Kaepernick situation, a lot of these organizations, they had to think business, you know, and their whole entire image and say, this guy might not mean bad, or it might not be wrong what he's saying, but I can't have him here in my organization because of the negative light that it will bring, because he is not my first string quarterback and he can't be second string acting like this and being this polarizing. You know, I think that has a big point of it too, is like, the Kaepernick situation is probably the most unique situation we've ever had in sports, not just football.
Yeah.
He changed the way you looked at a backup who wasn't going to see the field. And I will say this. I was actually a really big fan of Kaepernick when he was with the 49ers. Great player. I was a fan of Kaepernick when he played at Nevada. I would stay up late, 10:30 at night, to watch the start of the game and watch him play because, dude, he was a video game character, somebody that could throw and run and was effective in both. And it's very unfortunate the way his story went, but it's partly his fault. It's partly the NFL's fault. It's a whole lot that could be talked about in a whole nother show. But that's what's, you know, like I said, it's unique. He's the only story in the NFL where you could say it's like it could go both ways. The NFL owners went against him. He went against them. He went against himself and kind of made himself stick out in a bad light. And when you're not the best quarterback in the league, you might not have that privilege to maybe ruffle some feathers in the wrong way that you maybe didn't even intend to, or necessarily you're wrong for, because he was right in a lot of ways. So, you know, I think it's just a weird situation, but great question.
Havoc.
Wow. This question here, does the Browns Super Bowl threaten the Shield? I mean, it's possible, but now the problem is we'll never know because Deshaun Watson got hurt on Sunday. He had season-ending surgery, and that raises a greater topic to me, the Cleveland Browns medical staff, because I was one of the first ones to say that Deshaun Watson should have gotten back into the game because he was cleared. And I want to say first, I stand corrected. Deshaun Watson was legitimately injured. And that says a lot to me about their medical staff. And the fact that you sit here and you tell the head coach, hey, he's good to go. And the head coach tells the fans and the general public, hey, you know, he was cleared and he chose not to play. That says something to me about the quarterback when the head coach says he was cleared by the medical staff and he chose himself not to play. Now we go back twice. Now we go back and find out that he was really injured. And to me, that says a lot about, like I said, their medical staff. I don't blame the coach. The coach was just relaying what he was told. I'm sure now he probably feels differently about the medical staff. Now, would it have threatened a Super Bowl shield? I would say probably so. I mean, Deshaun Watson hasn't made a lot of friends since he's been in Cleveland. First of all, he got that $230 million guaranteed contract. That didn't make a lot of friends. One thing I've noticed, and I'll say this about any quarterback, not just Deshaun Watson, black, white, Hispanic, whatever race the freaking quarterback is, as soon as an NFL quarterback gets paid, this country turns on them. It doesn't matter what team they play for. It happened with Jimmy Garoppolo. It happened with Kirk Cousins. It happened with Deshaun Watson. As soon as these guys get their money, we turn their backs on them. And I don't know why we do that. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Now, with the threatening the NFL shield, yes, I'm sure Roger Goodell, with his viewpoints on certain things, I doubt he would want Deshaun Watson to win a Super Bowl. Now, how he would prevent that from happening, I don't know what he would do because you'd end up exposing yourself. Obviously, this is with Deshaun Watson being healthy. He's not going to play another down this year. But if he were healthy, I mean, he's on a roll right now. He just beat the Baltimore Ravens, and they had the top defense in the league. And Barry, I said last week, 14 and a half games. I even compared him to the 85 Bears and the 2000 Ravens. And he had a fourth quarter comeback and game-winning drive. That says a lot. Now, how would they run a prevention defense? That question, I don't know. But the first question for sure, yeah, it does threaten the shield.
You know, one of the things you guys may want to watch for, if anybody comes out and says the medical staff failed Deshaun Watson. Now, you got to think about this. Now we've taken a guy that has the bag that he has and washing him clean and making him the victim. Will people do that?
But Barry, is it not weird that, I mean, if you read the injury report, and I'm going to read it here for everybody, it kind of makes no sense. If this guy leads a game-winning drive, and then hours after the game, you report undergoes season-ending surgery on a broken bone in the throwing shoulder. I mean, is that a collarbone? Do you even consider that the shoulder? Is that a broken shoulder blade? I mean, what does that mean? That's very vague. And I just don't know. It sounds a little fishy to me because if he's been hurt this whole entire time and the medical staff is clearing him, he's had to have had x-rays. There's no way that they pass him with a broken bone in his shoulder unless that just happened on Sunday. So maybe we're not looking at the whole picture here. Could this be a, hey,
real
I'm
injury?
200, $200+ million in this contract, and I've already tried to get out this year, and now, I might have a broken bone. I mean, I don't know. I want to know y'all's, idea on that.
The cheapest person there is to hire for an NFL staff is the team doctor. Period. So if I'm paying you $236 million, I can easily go to my team doctor and say, hey, I don't give a rat's ass. I'm paying him $230 million. You clear him for this ball game because I'm not going to keep paying him $75 million to sit on the sidelines. And then you're going to say, he's cleared to go in. And then what is the owner going to do when he gets hurt? He's going to come out and say, the medical staff failed us. And he's going to throw them under the bus. So to me, I look at it as for Deshaun Watson to say, they said I'm clear. We'll see what happens. You really wasn't cleared. And you told them, I don't feel good. Well, hey, look, so-and-so upstairs said that if you are able to do this, then you should be able to go, but I don't feel good. And then you go out on the field, and that same feeling that you have created another injury that you just read. Okay, now he's hurt for real, and he's going to be on the sidelines with that big old bag in his pocket. And guess who the owners are going to throw under the bus? The medical staff. And then what are you going to do? You're going to go out next year and bring you in another Doogie Howser. It's the cheapest hire for an NFL team. And when I say that the doctors make good money, but they don't make player money, when I tore my Achilles, Dr. Brown was the doctor for the Carolina Panthers. That's who repaired my Achilles. So how is it a Carolina Panthers doctor in Rome, Georgia, repairing an Achilles if he didn't need more money?
Right. And like I said, you guys always bring in the smoke, man. But listen, at the end of the day, man, I do agree with you, Dalton, a little bit, man, about this being like a kind of like a fishy kind of like situation. I don't know what's going on with it. We probably won't ever know. But I do think that part of this is you don't want to give away too much information about a injury because that's information that you're giving to a team. Let's kick it to the next slide. An NFL record for game-winning kicks. Okay, last week. It was 5 on Sunday. And then, if I'm not mistaken, one more happened in the Broncos game on Monday night with two of my best analysts. Said it wouldn't happen, but it did. Listen, are kickers more valuable than running backs? We see we're living in a time where running backs are being devalued. And man, I was watching the games last week and I was thinking to myself, these guys get pounded play after play after play, and they get the smaller checks. Isn't that crazy? What do you say? You want the kicker or the running back?
Well, I'm going to say it depends on the situation. I know that sounds like a cop-out of an answer, but it really does matter. Like, let's say if you're the San Francisco 49ers or you're the Philadelphia Eagles or the Kansas City Chiefs and you got 2 minutes to go and you need a game-winning drive, you get all the way down to the 25-yard line and there's 6 seconds to go, what's going to be more important to you there, a running back or a kicker? I mean, for these great teams, a kicker is more important because let's look at the facts, guys. You don't need to draft a running back in the first round anymore. Running backs can be found at whatever stage in the draft. They can be found as undrafted free agents. About 10 years ago, the Washington Commanders, now that back then they were the Redskins, Alfred Morris was an undrafted free agent, and he rushed for 1,000 yards 3 years with that team, 3 seasons. So that right there is proof to you maybe the running back position still has value, but it doesn't mean you have to draft them high. So would I say a kicker is more valuable than a running back? It's got to depend on the team. If you're a top contender, yes. if you're not a top contender, no.
You know, you can kick that ball a whole lot further. You can throw it. What say you, Coach?
Well,
Run. I should say run.
from what
Run it.
from what I'm looking on the shirt, Charlie Brown's gonna kick it or try to kick it. We know Lucy's gonna move it out of the way, and Peppermint Patty's gonna come along and call him a blockhead. But have it hit right on it. You can get a running back anywhere in the draft. But for the teams that aren't looking for a running back, you're pretty much, I mean, when you're drafting late in the draft, like you win the Super Bowl, this is when we're going to see kickers become quote unquote valuable. They're literally going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. We're going to see it.
Wow.
Because that's going to be an important piece of the puzzle. And you say, well, a kicker in the first round, man, that's a whole lot of money, not for a kicker, because you also got to look at, a lot of people just think first round is big money. First round is big money in your position category.
Right.
So I win the Super Bowl. We had a kicker. He really didn't do too much for us. He was only 49% throughout the season. That's not a major weapon. But we got this kid coming out of college, kicking him 57 yards on average in college. I got a quarterback already. I got running backs already. Already got wide receivers. I already got linemen. My defense is intact. I can get something else in the second round, third round, on in the draft. But why wouldn't we not take a chance on a kicker? That's the cheapest first round that you will ever pay. Now look how much money you're going to be saving every round after that, because we all know as the rounds go on, the money scale drops. So you're not having to pay somebody a whole lot of money. You go and get a wide receiver in the second, third round. It's a bigger difference than getting that wide receiver in the first round. So I look at kickers being valuable for, like Havit said, teams that are already put in place with everything that they got. But as far as a team who needs everything else, a kicker is going to come in free agency. Period.
I'm just about to say, I don't think I've ever seen a kicker get drafted.
No.
I can't remember saying that.
Didn't A-Rod from Georgia, didn't he get drafted?
Yeah, and the Patriots actually drafted a kicker and then released him before the season even started.
And Janikowski was drafted.
Yeah, Janikowski was a first-round pick from Florida State in 2000.
He's the only one ever.
First-round kicker.
That's why I say. That's why I think that the kicker is going to come back into being a first-round draft pick when teams already have everything that they need, because you're adding a valuable weapon. Because if you got a guy that can kick a ball 57 yards, all we got to do is just get it at least to the 45 to give him a chance, depending on which way the wind is blowing. I mean, that's like saying we got a minute and 5 seconds to just get 30 yards.
But you
anything
know,
over that is great.
You know what's so crazy about this, though? Because I think to myself, like we said in one of our earlier shows, the draft pick, you know, you can sell that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to ask yourself, what is the value of that pick? Yeah, you may not have to pay that kicker a lot of money, but what can you sell that pick for? You have to think about that too. What do you say, Dalton?
You know, I kind of agree with both of you guys here. But here's what I'll say. I'll kind of go on a different limb. This is one of those scenarios where it really, I think the game is changing. Okay. Like Coach Price said, you can get a running back later in the round. And they could wind up being great. I think LeGarrette Blount, you know, that's somebody that kind of comes up in my mind. drafted probably later in the rounds due to his one-hit
was
wonder of a
undrafted,
punch.
Steve. He was undrafted.
Even
LeGarrette
better.
Blount. Yeah.
Even better. And, you know, that was only because he punched a guy in the end of the game at Boise State. But this guy, I believe he won multiple Super Bowls. So, and he was a star running back. So I think the game is changing to where you do see, you know, I think down the line you are going to see more drafted big time perennial kickers. But the game has also changed away from running backs. If you can get a couple of 8-yard pass plays, like Coach said, you're at the 45 to 50, you can kick a long field goal. You have a chance. Janikowski, this man, you know, like you said, the only drafted or the only first round drafted kicker ever. And he legit kicked for so long. And I mean, he was, I think he was a points leader for a couple teams. So, you know, I know he's definitely a top 10 kicker of all time. And then you have guys like Justin Tucker, who has changed the Baltimore Ravens in a way to where it's like this man has single-handedly won games by himself. So, you know, I think the kicking, you know, I know it don't seem important when you turn on CBS and watch the Charlie Brown special on Thanksgiving Day, but by God, is it special? And I think kickers are becoming, I don't know if they're more valuable than running backs yet, but by God, are they valuable?
But a kicker also has the most pressure on them than any player on that team.
And Coach, I think the running backs have the least amount of pressure than anybody on the team. If you think about that, that's a great point you said. The kickers have the most pressure, and the running backs have the least amount of pressure. They're devalued. So what pressure would you have?
You got pressure. You got pressure because if you don't get that 1 or 2 yard, you lose your job.
I don't think so. I mean,
yeah, but if the kicker missed that field goal, he better run out of the stadium.
Same thing, right? Same thing. You know,
Rodrigo was let go. You know, he was drafted, and then he was let go in year 2 for missing just a couple of kicks. So I do think the running back is given a whole lot more leeway than a kicker. Because think about this. Is there an NFL running back on every corner? Maybe not, but there's an NFL kicker on every corner. There's guys going on YouTube, Barry, for the last couple of years putting out unbelievable kicks, and they get a shot in the NFL and they wind up making it. So I do think that the kicker, I'm not going to say they're more valuable because I will go against everything I believe in, but man, they're close.
Well, you know, man, I think when we get right down to it, what matters more than anything is what the score is at the end of the game. And I can't think of anybody who will affect that score quicker and easier than a kicker. And then one little joke about this, little riddle. I thought y'all would get a kick out of that.
Uh-oh.
Did y'all hear it?
Done got a tune-up, Coach.
Yeah, tune up and we ready to roll.
That thing sounds good.
Well, I appreciate that, Barry. I hear the pipes blasting on it right now. And you know where we headed? Down I-75. Now, somebody told me that it was a foul stench of guano in the air. If anybody knows what that is, that's bird poop.
Woo.
But was it an eagle? Was it a cardinal? Was it a raven? No, it was a falcon. I'm telling you, I don't know what to say about this organization and why people get so riled up for them and really have belief in them. the Falcons is the only team that can go out and blow any ball game at any point of the game. I'm sick and tired of every week you turn on the TV and you're watching a Falcons game. They could go to halftime leading 20-3. And you can say, well, shoot, they got this in the bag. I'm going to run to Chick-fil-A, grab me something to eat, and then I'll come back. And when you get back home, after you sat in that line for 45 minutes because they couldn't get nobody's order right, and you're saying, man, I'm missing the game, but I ain't really worried about it because so-and-so play at 4 o'clock. I'll catch that game because I know the Falcons got it in hand. The minute you walk in the door, you see the Falcons are about to lose the game 23-20. With 4 seconds left. So that means the comeback is out the picture. So I'm going to tell you right now, Atlanta Falcons, hands down, you boys are straight trash. Now, my next stop, I'm going to go all the way to Buffalo, New York, and I'm going to back this in tight. You boys let a whole bunch of horses come into your stadium and ride around like it's a parade. Now, we all know what happens when you let horses come through a parade. You're going to have the prisoners scooping after them. I can't believe the letdown the Buffalo Bills had in that ball game. You had Russell Wilson running for his life like an old man, finding receivers and running the ball like a young man. And you couldn't stop it. Your defensive tackle was in the backfield every single time. I don't know. I guess Russell Wilson was looking at some Mr. Miyagi videos because as soon as you come through, it was wax on, wax off, and then he's gone for a first down. So you Buffalo Bills, for the performance that you put on, you guys are straight trash. But hold up, Barry. I still got it in park. Because this is the thing I also got to say. The Buffalo Bill organization. Josh Allen comes out, throws interceptions. Cook comes out fumbling the ball. You got a chance to stop Denver. You're in an all-out blitz, so all you got to do is cover your receiver, and you get a pass interference. But y'all fired the offensive coordinator. So for that move and that move only, Barry, the Buffalo Bills organization, along with the performance they put along against the Denver Broncos, you boys are straight cash. And the final stop of the day, I'm going to whip this thing on down to Carolina. Now I hear a lot of people telling me Bryce Young doesn't have any weapons around him. And for a minute, I started eating them burgers. But I was piling up a whole bunch of papers and straws and cups on it. And I said, let me look at the ingredients on the back of these fries to see exactly what they're doing. And it come to find out after researching that the same squad y'all had last year, y'all got this year. And all you did was add a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback.
Great point.
But the bad part about it is that combo had 7 wins last year. Y'all ain't going to get close to 7 wins this year. So for anybody to tell me that the quarterback makes a team better, your philosophy on that is straight trash. And I'm out.
Hey, you know what? That's what I'm trying to say, man. The guy, they want to give him a pass. They want to give him a pass. They want to give him a pass. I'm not giving a pass. Every chance I get, every chance I get, and he play like that, we're gonna wreak a little havoc. That's period. Now we got this.
Wreaking havoc, wreaking
We about to read a little.
All right, yeah. So this is the Thoroughbred Havoc segment, wreaking havoc. This week, I'm going to start with the defense. And the reason I'm going to start with the defense is because as a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, I watched the San Francisco 49ers game, and Nick Bosa was an absolute menace. He completely disrupted the game on a defensive perspective. He was unblockable. Rookie right tackle Anton Harrison had no chance against Nick Bosa. That, to me, was his welcome to the NFL moment, if there ever is going to be one, having to block Nick Bosa. Good luck with that. Nick Bosa had 1.5 sacks. He had a forced fumble where he sacked Trevor Lawrence and forcefully took the football out of his hands. Trevor, I love you, bro, but you're not going to survive a Bosa brother. And he proved that he couldn't survive a Bosa brother. He had the ball taken out of his hand for 1.5 sacks. And Nick Bosa, luckily, the Jaguars don't have to play them twice a year. And the only time the Jags will see them again is if they make the Super Bowl, which thankfully, whoever has to play Nick Bosa, have fun with that. Good luck. And I hope you understand this guy's really good. And he really did win Defensive Player of the Year last year. That's my defensive player. My offensive player, we've talked about this guy on a couple of segments ago. It's got to be Deshaun Watson. And the reason why Deshaun Watson just completed his, and I want to say this accurately, this is his 20th fourth quarter comeback and game-winning drive, and this was against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, guys, this was a fourth quarter comeback and game-winning drive. That stat is total as far as game-winning drives and fourth quarter comebacks. This was both. They were trailing in the fourth quarter, and they had a fourth quarter comeback and game-winning drive, and Deshaun Watson was able to do it against the number one defense in the NFL at the time. I'll have to recheck the stats because Deshaun Watson did a number on that defense, made him look silly before going on IR, obviously. So he ruined the whole segment because we won't get to analyze it any further. But Deshaun Watson is my offensive player who wreaked havoc on Sunday because he had a fourth quarter comeback and game-winning drive against the number one defense in the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens. And you remember, Barry, last week we talked about this game and we said how important it would be for Deshaun Watson against a defense like this. And he did prove himself. It's a darn shame that Deshaun Watson got injured because the momentum this guy was playing with is real. He was on a roll. He was doing great. And I hate to see this, guys, all of us, Steve, Coach, Barry, guys, when a player is playing well and their season is finished due to injury, I hate that. But my offensive player who wreaked havoc is Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, man. Great segment, Havoc. I agree, too. I'm actually a Deshaun Watson fan. It wasn't because of college. It's just because I love the game. I love what he did at Houston. The dude was amazing in Houston. And, you know, I know a lot of people have forgotten about that. And I just wanted to see him make a comeback. So, you know, I was making it, you know, doing these slides and everything. I had him on my mind. I saw the Browns being in the thick of things. And then Tony dropped in that he was out for a season end. And I was like, what? I mean, it was unbelievable because I was like, man, the dude just played. You know, he played well. You know, in the interest of time, fellas, I'm going to skip a couple of slides. And I'm going to go I think we have time to do the playoff picture. And then look at some games. And what I want you to do with this right here, we got the AFC and the NFC. Tell me if that the playoff picture right there looks right for you guys. Do you think it'll hold or do you think it'll fold? I'm gonna start with you, Dalton.
You know, I haven't seen the NFC picture yet, and I don't know if we're only doing the AFC, but
you're doing both.
Okay. on the AFC side, one team that really sticks out to me is the Steelers. I mean, they have been dreadful on offense, and I would put them in the bottom 5 in offense in the whole entire NFL. And that's not because of talent. I think it's Matt Canada. I mean, this guy is dreadful. And if he's still there at the end of the year, I think you need to be asking questions about Mike Tomlin. How much does he want to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because if you keep, I mean, like your mama always told you, if you lay around shit, you become shit. And, it's the truth. I mean, if you lay around Matt Canada long enough, you're going to become Matt Canada, which is jobless. So the Steelers is a shock for me here. And what is even more of a shock, they could very well be higher on this list at the end of the year. I mean, what is also, to me, it's not a shock because I actually picked the Browns to win the division. And realistically, they've only lost Nick Chubb. I know they lost Deshaun Watson too, but I do feel like there's a lot of people you could plug into that situation. They're still going to run the football well. Great offensive line in Cleveland, and I mean they've got the running backs there, and Kareem Hunt, and his last name's Ford. Is that
Ford, yeah.
I think both of those guys are great replacements for Nick Chubb, and they, they're not the same, but they offer. I think both of them offer what Nick Chubb can offer by himself, if that makes sense. I mean, you got to have two to make one. So, I don't think the Cleveland Browns are off that far. And we kind of talked about this to start the year. We thought that division had 3 or 4 teams that could be playoff contenders, and we see that. I think the biggest shock for all of us is got to be the Texans down there at the bottom. And what's crazy about their situation, and I know all you guys are probably thinking this too, these Texans, they play in the worst division in football, you could call it, but they are playing like one of the better teams in the NFL. If you talk about teams, they're playing like one of the better ones. And if, maybe if they were in a different division, you wouldn't even hear about them. So it's kind of hard to say what is real and what is not with the Texans yet. So I think that is a big shock. I think a shock that's not on this list is the Buffalo Bills. I think a lot of us picked them to be the division champions because they have been for a while. And rightfully so. I think the Bills not being on here is a shock, and they would have to pull off a big second half of the season to get on this list, to even get on the list. Because you do have teams like the Bengals, the Texans. I mean, you've got a lot of teams here. Even the Jets are still within striking distance. There's a lot of teams here that could be in this list. The Chiefs, to me, not a surprise. They have to be on this list. If not, it's a disappointment. That's what I got to say about the AFC.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a chance to just run down through these two real quick.
Yeah, NFC. To me, I think the biggest shock is the Vikings. Kirk Cousins is out, but it is not going to be a shock to me if Josh Dobbs leads the Vikings to the playoffs. The kid is super smart. He's a great quarterback. And I mean, what he's been able to do in Minnesota in a brief time. I mean, the guy, we joked last week, he didn't even know the guys' names on the team. And now this guy is out here winning, another game. So I think the Vikings is a fun story. The Seahawks is a big surprise. and maybe not for Barry. I know he picked them to win the NFC West, I believe.
Yeah.
But the Saints, you know, I think that's a surprise to see them on the list. But if you know how bad the division is, not that big of a surprise. The Lions and Eagles, I said it was coming. So I think the NFC, to me, this is the only year in a long time where the NFC is more fun to watch than the AFC.
You think it's more fun?
I think it's more. I think it's more competitive. I will say that. I do think it's
more. It's definitely more competitive than it was last year. I think. Definitely feel good. What do you say, Coach?
Well, I think this list pretty much is going to sum up what the season is going to be in the NFC. The only thing I can sit here and say is going to be a shakeup, and God knows who it would be the NFC South. You know, Falcons, Saints, we can cancel the Panthers, and you got the Bucks. So I think that division is the only one that's wide open except for one team. Neither one of those three teams are dominant. When we talk about the NFC East, Eagles are dominant. We talk about the NFC North, the Lions are dominant. We talk about the NFC West, the 49ers are dominant. They got other teams in the division that can make the playoffs, but these three teams, hand down, are controlling the division. But in the NFC South, it's wide open. And notice that the only NFC South team that's in the playoff is the division leader. So that tells you that that division doesn't have any sauce in it. So it's wide open. So I think that out of all the teams in the NFC, that everything that I'm seeing on this list, I can see them all in the playoffs. And like I said, as far as the NFC South, it could go one of three ways. And as far as the AFC, everything that I think on this list is right on point. From where I was week 1 to where we are right now. The reason why the Houston Texans are dangerous and is going to be a dangerous squad going forward is not because of what CJ Stroud is doing. What CJ Stroud is doing is causing the Houston Texans to be comfortable with what they're doing on offense. But what we're not looking at is the major factor. Who is the head coach? Wait till that defense turn around to what that offense is doing. I mean, they got one of the top-notch guys in the league coming out of San Francisco. Look at all the talent that he had in San Francisco and look at where that defense ranked. He don't have the same personnel and bodies in Houston, but he hadn't had a full chance to draft what he needs. And this guy knows football on the defensive side of the ball, and he's an SEC guy. So where do you think he finna go get some gems from? Former Alabama defensive player, you know he's going to Nick. Played under Kirby Smart, you know he's going to Georgia. So what we're not looking at on this list is the Houston Texans is putting themselves in a situation of where you better start taking them serious, because what we're looking at where they're at right now, they're doing with a rookie quarterback and don't even have the defense lined up yet.
And I don't think really Happy like hearing what you just said. I'll let him talk about it.
Well, the Week 11 AFC playoff picture, guys, I want to say there's a couple things that surprised me. Obviously, the Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson going down, I want to say that'll change. I expect the Chargers. I know I've been saying that a while for now, but I just believe in Justin Herbert. I think the kid has enough talent to overcome Brandon Staley's coaching deficiencies. And now that Deshaun Watson's on IR with the shoulder injury, it's a perfect opportunity for the Chargers to come in and slide and take that spot. Now, the Houston Texans, I want to say this, guys, they're a dangerous team. This is a very dangerous team. And you know why? Because come playoff time, people are going to sit there and say, oh, CJ Stroud's a rookie. DeMeco Ryans is a first-year head coach. Well, you know what, guys? This team can play some football. I would not underestimate the Houston Texans. My Jaguars did that, and they suffered a huge blow and were defeated because they underestimated CJ Stroud and the Texans, and they were handled. Now, I'll say this about the Pittsburgh Steelers. That team concerns me. I can see them easily as a one-and-done playoff team. And Steve touched on it earlier. Matt Canada, I said this probably when we first started this NFL podcast. Matt Canada is not a good offensive coordinator. Matt Canada has no idea how to use the tools around him, as in Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris, George Pickens, and I know they got Pat Freiermuth. I'm forgetting about the other receiver's name. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have a lot of talent. However, they're not utilizing it to their best ability. And then the last team I want to say that gives me concerns, because I want to say, guys, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm not concerned about the Chiefs, Ravens, and Jaguars. I think the Jaguars, Ravens, and Chiefs have all been tested this year. They've had a solid schedule. They've had to play some good teams. Now, I want to come back to the Dolphins. And I said this last week. Every time the Dolphins play a bigger dog, they get bit. And they do. I am not convinced the Dolphins can beat any team on this list. I'm not. Until they convince me, until Tua Tagovailoa, and I hope I said that right. I'm really big on pronouncing people's names right. But Tua, until you prove you can beat a good team, I don't believe in you. I think Tua's a stat monster, but I don't think he gets it done in big games. That's for the AFC. Now, on the NFC, that's a different story. The NFC, my Dallas Cowboys really concern me, and here's why. Dak Prescott, yes, he had a terrific game against the Giants. But guys, we talked about this about 20 minutes ago. Who started at quarterback for the Giants last week? It was Tommy DeVito. It wasn't Tyrod Taylor. It wasn't Daniel Jones. Two guys who have NFL experience. Tommy DeVito, I don't even know what college he played for. So there's that. So my Dallas Cowboys concern me a lot for the playoffs. The Vikings, I'm not going to lie. The Vikings, they can surprise some people. Joshua Dobbs, if you guys have noticed, each year he gets better and better. And we talked about this last week. There was another quarterback that was very similar to Joshua Dobbs, Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon ended up taking the Oakland Raiders to a Super Bowl in 2002, and he lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Joshua Dobbs reminds me a lot of Rich Gannon. Very similar playing style. So I would not underestimate the Minnesota Vikings. The 49ers at 3, I've been saying all year, with that talent they've got on the 49ers and Nick Bosa just completely being disruptive and affecting the game. If Nick Bosa can do what he did against the Jaguars, who have a good offensive line, that team's dangerous. However, I will say this. I don't think they can beat a completely healthy Philadelphia Eagles right now. My opinion may change in a couple of weeks as the season goes along, but the Eagles are the most complete team I've seen in the NFL right now. And the way they're using Jalen Hurts this year, if they continue to do that, as in use Jalen Hurts as a dual threat, don't try to make him Peyton Manning, don't try to make him Tom Brady, this team's dangerous. and they should be able to beat San Francisco if they follow that formula.
Okay, I'm
And to
just gonna
touch
make
on one note before
Right,
we
go ahead.
go, to touch on one note, we don't see the Buffalo Bills on there, right?
No.
right.
And I just got through picking up a whole bunch of trash in Buffalo. But this is one thing I'm gonna tell you why I'm not counting Buffalo out. Even though you got rid of your offensive coordinator, you think that really hurts a lot of teams, but you got to realize, dude, Joe Brady is the offensive coordinator now.
He's awesome. I like Joe Brady a lot.
So look for something different to happen in Buffalo. I'm just not saying anything right now because I want to see what Joe Brady is going to have Josh Allen doing now, because I can sit here and tell you the last time that Joe Brady had his hands on a quarterback, Joe Burrow was the truth.
I was going to say that, Coach. Sorry, real quick. Barry, you'll love this. Joe Brady was your LSU national champion offensive coordinator with Burrow.
Yeah,
Yep.
I remember. Okay, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna hand this back to two things. I'm gonna hand it back to Dalton. Now check it out. I think the Houston Texans is gonna win that division. I think your Jags are not real Jag. They putty cats. Okay. And to Coach's comment about the Bills not giving up on them, you should. And I'm gonna tell you why. New York Jets, Philadelphia Eagles, Kansas City, Dallas, and Chargers, and Miami. They're done.
Wow.
And I didn't even
What-
want to say that. I didn't want to say that to Tony because, you know, Tony was pretty much saying they cooked. He's right. They cooked.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you're not getting through that gauntlet. Josh Allen.
You're
will
not
have
getting
to-
through it. You're not
Uh-uh.
getting through it, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know what Joe Brady is going to bring to the table with Josh Allen, but I can tell you, if Joe Brady beats the Jets and then turn around and knock off one or two of those teams that you just named in that gauntlet early, then I would think the Bills would be a threat. I'm just anxious to see what he's going to do, because this guy is a quarterback guru when it comes
Yeah.
to what's going on the field. This is what we need to do. These are the kind of throws I need you to make. Dude, Joe Burrow has not looked anywhere near in Cincinnati the way he looked when he was under that guy's guidance at LSU.
And you know, I'm just saying they got to go at Philly and at Kansas City. I'm just saying Joe Brady is going to have to put his best work in.
And
All
I
right,
want to see it.
Dalton.
Hey, it's been a great show. And man, I'm glad it went over tonight because my God, the content that we had tonight. But you know, we talked about the Jaguars. We talked about all these teams here. It really comes down to what's going to happen in late November and December when college football stops, and the only thing we got is the NFL. Who's going to show up to play and win these big games, win these late games? Is it going to be the Buffalo Bills? Is it going to be the Bengals? You know, only time will tell, but we will talk about it right here on the Chop and Block podcast. Hey, this has been the Chop and Block podcast this week in the NFL, presented by DJ's Clam Shack. Send us home, Barry.
Yeah, we about to